Welcome to this Grandma's Life podcast. I'm your host, theciaellis. Get ready to laugh, learn, and grow with me as we explore growing old in an ever-changing world. One of the good things about growing old is that people judge you less when you sometimes say outrageous things. I'm getting older, and I've had a fascinating life. I also have opinions. You may not agree with those opinions, and I may not care. Even now, I am passionate about many things. I love to learn. I love quotes, and I care about my country. Join me as we explore loving life, even as we age. Today is the first day of May 2026, and this is episode 95, Juggling the Old and the Young. And now that I read it out loud, it sounds kind of funny. You'll understand what I'm talking about here in a few minutes. In this episode, I discuss an aspect of the circle of life. But first, what has been going on? Well, as you maybe know, I work as a town clerk for the town of Foyle, and that is where Andy Payne back in I thought it was 1929, but the statute says 1928. He's from here in Foyle. He won what they call the Bunyan Derby. That's where there was a basically ultra marathon. They ran from Los Angeles, California to New York, in Madison Square Garden, and he won it like 24 hours in front of everybody else. And so because this is Oklahoma's 100-year anniversary, and of course this is our country 250-year anniversary, they decided they had an Andy Payne half marathon last year, but I don't know where it went or where it started. But this year they decided to let it come out here in little old Foyle. And then, it's kind of how they phrase it too. Well, make sure you got everything done right. You are a little bitty town, and we know your reputation. And, in the past, I guess that reputation probably fit. But I don't know. I think things are looking up, and I'm pretty happy about it. And they had the start of the half marathon race here in Foyle, which is really cool. And another first with that is this is the first time they actually even closed down a portion of Route 66 for any reason, for like that. And what they did is they closed down one part of the highway from here all the way back to Claremore. And by the time they went through the route, so from here to Claremore, it was the half marathon. So was that 13.1 miles? So that was pretty cool that they did that. But they were pleased enough with how it went that they had announced that we're going to get to have this start here in Foyle every year from here on after. And that just made me proud. Made me proud of how far we've come as a little town, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Mom and dad, mom was going through her thing. She started living where she is again, and she's kind of pitching a fit. And dad's getting far enough along that he doesn't even recognize most people anymore. But he fell a couple weeks ago and busted his head open again. Had to have his head stitched up when he was in the hospital. Apparently, he was in ICU for a few days, and then was able to. Over time, he's back at the facility where they are, it is a memory care facility. Because mom's in a stage of dementia, dad's in basically the later stage of Alzheimer's. And so my brother put him in a memory care facility. Well, dad's getting bad enough that they're thinking about putting him into a nursing home, an actual nursing home, not a facility, And it might be better for mom too, because even though she has a level of dementia, she has more brain capability than any of the other patients in that place. And I'm sure she's having a difficult time finding somebody to talk to. So my brother is thinking about dad's probably going to have to go pretty soon anyway, because of his condition. Of course, mom is deteriorating the condition too. She can't do a lot of things by herself anymore. And so she's needing more help as she goes too. What hasn't changed, well, maybe in dad some, but basically they're still the most bullheaded people I know. And dad is one of them. Once he decides he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And that's probably the reason he fell and busted his head. So there's no telling. But on the other end of the spectrum, my youngest granddaughter, who is 4 years old, they had their end of year program at the school that she goes to, and it is, as always, they're cute. This year she did the little teapot thing, and she her mother made a teapot for her to be in, and we got to listen to their little spiel. I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Okay, but the only thing is, I think they haven't. They kept having to do it over and over again. Okay, let's go a little louder. But 4-year-olds and all the other kids that are in the preschool there too, they're just as cute as they can be. So it's fun to go and do that too. Oh, another thing I'm excited about with the town of Foyle too is several years ago, before COVID, somebody decided that we should have a Christmas parade here in Foyle. And I'm telling you, it's a little town. And I can't remember what they said. The population is like 268, something like that. So we are talking a little town. And but that year that we had the parade, it was so well attended by both people who were participating and those who came and stood on the side of the street. And it was about a mile from one end of this part of the town to the other. And so it was so cool. We thought, okay, we're going to do this every year. And then COVID hit, and we didn't do it for 2 or 3 years. And then we did it for a year. And this town has been going through some pretty major upheavals in the last few years. And so last year we didn't have a parade, and I was hoping we could do it, but I got hired on with the town a little bit late to even know what's going on, let alone try to put together a parade. And they said it was somebody that was private that had organized it before, and I don't know who it was, but she didn't want to do it anymore. And I thought, well, okay, I'm here. I'll do it. And it's funny because a few weeks ago, a Shriner called me and goes, I'm getting my calendar together for the year. When is your parade? I'm thinking, it's March. I mean, it was March at the time. I said, I don't have any idea. So I put together a date, and we took it before the board. It was approved, and we're going to have a Christmas parade. Which is cool about that too, though, is I sent an email over to the superintendent of the school, and I told him, I said, I'm new, but here's what we're doing. This is when it is, and this is how it's going to go. And if you have any suggestions, I'd be happy. I'm definitely ready to hear them. Well, he sent me an email back with several of the staff's numbers or email addresses on there. So I sent them the same email saying, this is what we're doing. I was getting phone calls. They're so excited at the school. So one person goes, I can be Santa Claus. I know somebody who can be Mrs. Claus. So if you don't have any Santa Claus things yet lined up, we'll be happy to do it. And the band will be happy to do it. I don't know. The enthusiasm was really encouraging for me. And so I'm looking forward to way down the road having a Christmas parade. But I'm excited about it. And I'm really kind of glad. And I'm more than kind of glad. I'm really grateful for it. Well, the other night, they had a men's meeting over the church. And as you know, my housemate and I, we my neighbor, and she said she calls us neighbors, but we live in the same house. But one of the men says, "Oh, I think I forgot to lock a couple of doors. Would you be so kind to go and check it out?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm right here on the grounds. I'm so grateful to be here. I can't hardly stand it. Whatever they need me to do, I'm ready to do it." So Terry goes, "Well, I'll go with you." And so she's walking up there with me, and we ended up catching 2 kids on a tractor that were joyriding through the parking lot and through the playground and stuff. And long story short, we told them, y'all need to go somewhere else and not be tearing up our yard and tearing up our, going through our parking lot and stuff. And then we just went on our way. And then we found out the next day that they had stolen that tractor from the school. And they'd actually even broken into the school and taken everybody's mouse, the mouse for their computer, and switched them around with everybody else's, so nobody's stuff worked right. And then they finally figured out that a tractor was missing. But they got the kids. They got everything taken care of. And the kids confessed. So I don't know. It was kind of sad, but at the same time, it was interesting that Terry and I kind of walked in on the middle of that too. All right. One of my good friends, she had a birthday the other day. She just turned 78 years old, and she is a joy. She's a little bitty, tiny lady. I think she says she's 4'8". I can't remember what she is, and she's slender too. I think they said her sister's 4'10" and she's 4'8". And so they're both very, very short people, and she's tiny too, but she's kind of a pistol. She's kind of funny, she's smiling, always smiling. We always have meet and greet at the church, and it gets loud in the sanctuary because we're all saying hi to each other and having a good time. when it's time to sit down. She's almost always the last one to sit down. And I know you hear me almost all the time talk about how much I appreciate and love all the people at this church. Well, and I do. It's really cool. And some of us go out to lunch occasionally, particularly after Sunday. We go find some place and have a nice lunch together and talk, and it's just really nice. Well, for her birthday, we went to a restaurant, and there more of us that got to go because it was her birthday, and everybody, other ladies wanted to celebrate, and it was just wonderful. It is I always love the old crew that comes with us. That there are three or four of us that all kind of sit together and have a good time. But then we had a couple of others that were with us too, and that just made it so nice. And especially since when they said they had a good time, so that's cool. I have not over the years taken the opportunity to foster friendships, relationships. I've always been very, very busy. I'm still very busy, but because of the situation, God has put me in a situation where I'm actually got some relationships. I get to go to lunch with friends. We just have a nice time, and I enjoy it, and I'm very grateful for it, I have to admit. Well, my job keeps changing. Okay, so the mayor, the man that was the mayor has suddenly moved to Arizona. And he trained me. He did a good job of training me. He did it, but there was a lot of things I still need to learn, particularly in things that only happen once a year, and it's like, so I've been trying to figure out stuff. There's been 2 or 3 things I'm trying to learn and get done, and I've got a long way to go. And honestly, and he did so much. He was so hands-on that I never had to worry about coming up to the building to open it for events, because people rent out the community center for events and stuff, and somebody needs to go up there and then lock it for them unless we were able to make arrangements to it prior. So it's just one of those things that my job keeps expanding, and I still got more to learn, and so that's the way that goes. All right, what I'm listening to on audiobooks. I'm still listening to The Millionaire Mind. I'm almost done with it. It was a good book. I'm not going to listen to it a second time. There is enough of it that's outdated and stuff that I don't agree with. But then there's other stuff in there that I really enjoyed and needed to hear, but not enough for me to listen to the book a second time. And he's trying to tell me that millionaires cut coupons, and I struggle with that because I've tried to cut coupons, and honestly, the stuff that they're trying to sell you with coupons is nothing but junk, and I don't want to put junk in my body. So I don't know. And there was 2 or 3 other things, but he did say some things that I thought, okay, yeah, I didn't need to hear this, but I'm almost done with that. And I got another book I'm going to be working on after this one. And my fiction book that I'm listening to, well, I just finished it today, is You Are Destined to Be Together by Dean Koontz. And that's kind of like a prelude to the rest of the Odd Thomas series. And it was I think it was only like an hour or so long, that particular book. And that was written in 2013. So what I'm reading, I'm still working on Keto After 50. I'm getting close to being done with that one. And then I've started another book called Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna, and written in 2010. And so far, that's been a pretty decent book. I'm kind of curious to see how that ends up going whenever, as it progresses. All right, my quote of the week. There is very little difference between one man and another, but what little there is very important. And if you think about it, yes, we could say that we all have egos and personalities. We all, in general, we all have 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 ears, 2 arms. As a general rule, we have a set of ways about us that not only sets us as human beings, but as individuals within those human beings too. So there are differences, but when it comes down to personalities and different physical and emotional traits or something like that, it is very different. So, and William James, I've really liked a lot of his quotes. I need to do some more study on him. I think I've done some study on him when I was in college because I was trying to become a psychologist. And he was an American philosopher and psychologist. He was born January 11th, 1842 in New York. And he was the first educator to offer psychology courses in the United States. But apparently, I didn't finish transferring all my notes on him. But when you study psychology, you cover a lot of his stuff, and I think it's interesting too. Okay, now we're down to my main subject: juggling the young and the old. So I first learned about the sandwich generation about 8 years ago. I had just gotten custody of Kinzie, and so she was my granddaughter. My kids were already all raised up, but at the same time, I was dealing with her parents with several different things too. And then my parents, I was trying to get them moved to Florida after they've had strokes, and Dad had had 2 knee replacements and a hip replacements and heart surgery, and I can't remember what all else. And so all of that was happening at the same time. And that's when I learned about the sandwich generation. And generally they're saying that you as an individual are sandwiched between an older generation and the younger generation. And so I kind of had like a club sandwich, triple decker club sandwich, because I was dealing with kids, grandkids, and parents. And I think a lot of people do all the time, just the way it goes. So that's when I had learned about that firsthand. But now Kinzie's grown. She's still in the picture, but she's all grown, and Mom and Dad are still around. And I had stated that Dad has had some physical things happen. Mom is fun as usual. But then now I have little Ivy, which is my other little granddaughter, and she's 4 years old. And she's just turned into just a real joy. She's so much fun. And I get to take her to church on Sunday mornings. And the people at the church just really like her because she's smart. She's as smart as a whip. But she's another one of those, you just never know what's going to come out of her mouth. And it's been fun. So still, even now, I'm still dealing with parents and my parents. I'm not dealing so much with the next generation down right now. My youngest son is he's going through some changes, but they're good changes, and I'm really proud of him and glad for him. But it's not anything that I have anything to do with or have to deal with and stuff. I love having Ivy around, but she's 4 and she's a handful. I mean, she's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's just she's 4 and has a lot of energy. And so I have to admit, I get a little tired after I'm done taking her to church and stuff. But I don't know. It's nice that, to have the different generations. And I think that's pretty good. And several of my friends have great grandkids. And so, yeah, Kinzie told me that I was old enough to be a great grandmother a few years ago. And she's right. Her older brother's 24. I could be a great grandma. But I guarantee you, I understand I'm old enough, but I don't feel that old, and I bristled a little bit. It's like, well, I can do grandma, but I'm not sure about the great grandma thing, but it doesn't matter. When it happens, it happens. That's the way it is. So not only do several of my friends having to deal with, they have great grandkids, but they are also making tough choices with their parents. There's 2 or 3 guys, even in our Sunday school, they're going, their parents are failing physically, mentally. They're finding where they have been gypped out of somebody who's supposed to be a good caretaker. These people, their parents are falling and hurting themselves and hurting their spines. Well, like my dad's hurting his head, and he hurt his spine last year. And you don't ever really want to put somebody in a facility, but when it comes down to it, if you don't have the capability to do that for yourself, then, lift them and bathe them and everything without the proper equipment, and it gets hard. As much I loved watching Aunt Frankie, but I had help when it came time to bathe her and stuff. There was another woman who did it until it got too hard for her, and then we were doing bed baths for her so she could still be clean, but she couldn't get up anymore. And it was just hard decisions. And my brother's dealing with this now. He's trying to deal with my dad and my mom and their needs, and they're all the way in Florida and I'm in Oklahoma, and there's very little I can do to help except for offer what I can do and be supportive otherwise, So while you're dealing with all these different generations, you're still trying to do your own life. I'm trying to help talk my brother through things with Mom and Dad, and I still communicate with my granddaughter Kinzie all the time, and I get to have fun with Ivy. But I'm trying to learn a job. That's like, I've had it for a few months, but I've got a lot to learn. There's a lot. It's not just paying the bills. I feel a lot of roles, and I won't go into that right now, but there's a lot to learn, and a lot of things I'm responsible for now that I have to admit are a little bit scary to me. But I'm trying to handle all these different generations as I'm trying to live my own life, grow my YouTube channels, grow my podcast, everything else and stuff too. But it's interesting. I ran across this other quote, and I think it's beautiful, and I hope that you grasp what it's saying. It says, the very old and the very young have something in common that makes it right that they should be left together alone. Dawn and sunset see stars shining in a blue sky, but morning and midday and afternoon do not, poor things. And this is by Elizabeth Gouge. And what she's saying is it's really nice to have someone that's older, like a grandparent, with somebody who's very young, like a grandchild or even a great-grandchild, because the older person is more toward the evening and the younger person is in the morning, and they can see the morning stars, or they can be they are doing things together, while everybody else who's like working and going to school and running around doing this, that, and the other thing, they can't spend that time with the youngest one. And if they do spend it with the older generation, the older generation has a little bit of wisdom, or if nothing else, experience that they can pass on. That's one of the things I learned with Kinzie, is I may not have been wiser, but I did have some experience that I could share with her that her parents couldn't. And I had often wondered that with my own boys. I loved my boys. I did my very best for them, but I let them down in a whole lot of ways because I was in the midst of working and juggling life at the same time. And I didn't have the experience necessarily on how to raise them probably the way they should have been raised. And it would have been good to have had an older grandparent around that could share some of that wisdom with them. Yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of interesting when you think of it that way. But if you step back and look it over, and you can see how older and the very young can get along quite well, while everybody in the middle is keeping everything running. All right, my question of the day is, how many generations are you dealing with in your life right now? Send me an email at theciaellis@gmail.com. I'm going to deal with a fold card. Yeah. Well, actually, Bitcoin is making a comeback right now. Of course, there's all kinds of other different types of cryptocurrency that you can invest in too. But a fold card is a prepaid debit card. You put money on it and you spend it, and it helps you earn Satoshis. And I don't spend that much money. I have a certain amount budgeted each month to go to my fold card. And just in Satoshis, as I've added them up over the years, it's, not years, but over time, I've actually saved back some money. I mean, the Satoshis can be converted to cash if you want to. So I don't know. It's a good thing. It doesn't cost you anything more to do it. Just, use that prepaid debit card to make your purchases. And it's got all kinds of things where you can buy and get extra percentage of Satoshis. And you can do a lot better than I do, because I'm just not a big spender with a lot of stuff like that. But it's helped me anyway. So I would encourage you to do it. But there is a link below that you can click on to check into the fold card. And I think that you'll find it's a good thing to do. Another place I can be found is on Grandma's Homestead Facebook page. My Grandma's Homestead Facebook page is where I post my faith fuel, my this Grandma's life, and Grandma's Homestead, and whatever else it is I'm doing. I post it on that Facebook page, so you can check me out there. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. God bless. I'll see you next time.